My name is Gabriel. Work at Ochronica, co-owner, co-founder with Terry as well. So what I wanted to talk about today is using individual React components within a regular SilverStripe layout flow so that you don't have to completely replace the page logic. For example, with inertia, where you would replace it completely. But I want to have individual components on specific pages with the help of an extra backend using WebSocket technology, so you can create live data. So the problem is, why we wanted to have this is if you have complex forms, for example, a checkout form which is updating the entire page from and to when you change a step, if you change your name, if you add a product, you want to have a complete reactive element. Another example is if you have chat incorporated into your site, you want to have real-life updates. Another example is if you have collaboration tools, if you have an IDE which you use with multiple users, or you have something like Google Docs, you want to have live updates, you want to show what the other people are doing. And one of the last examples that everyone copes with is having notifications, live notifications within your application, even if it's a backend or a front end. So one of the solutions is using vanilla JavaScript, using polling and having an API in the backend. But that's kind of a thing that you keep working on. So you're adding individual API backends, you're adding extra AJAX calls with callbacks on callbacks. So that's something that we wanted to have renewed in something that's been available for ages, reactive stuff. So think about Vue.js or think about React. We wanted to have live data directly available, and we wanted it to be stable. So we're looking at React in this case, and we're looking at WebSocket. Both technologies exist for a long time already. So the solution is having drop-in React components, which you can build on the side, not replace the entire page logic within SilverStripe, and use something that provides WebSockets using PHP, not Node.js, or something in Go, or some C application in the backend, just as an extension on PHP. So in a gist, this is what I'm going to show in a minute. I actually just forked the basic, the simple template, where I added a simple React component, which will be added in a specific page template. That React component will have an internal state, which was really simple. It's just a counter. So there's a button with a counter. That button has an internal state which communicates through a WebSocket client to the backend. And the entire backend consists of a WebSocket server which runs through a build task in SilverStripe, which uses Swool. In this case, I had to use Swool because OpenSwool did not work in DDEV. That's something that I want to fix yet. And I've created, I made the WebSocket server extensible so you can add your own modules, your own hooks, your own handlers. So, the demo. I'm going to try to show it from top to bottom, back to top. So you're going to see React components, you're going to see the flow to the backend, from the backend again back to the front end. Let me so what I've done is I've created a simple test React page, and that React page triggers a page, and I will show you these two pages. So I'm going to navigate to the React page. The React page initiates a connection, but as you can see, the connection is not running. So I'm going to start the WebSocket server within React. So this is a DDEV command, which actually does a dev build command. So it's going to start a WebSocket server, and you will see that eventually they will reconnect and have a count. So this is reactive. If I increase this count, it will directly update this count. So what happens is this connection is probably alive. I'm going to look which one is alive. So this one is alive. When I do something, it will send a message to bump the counter. The counter is passed through the WebSocket backend, which does the update, and it sends a message back to the front end to update the counter with a new count. So this count is then returned to the React element, which updates the flow. So if you have a look at the code, I'm going to start with the simple theme. This React demo theme is actually just a copy of the simple theme, where I added a basic React template made by a vite command. So this is a basic setup. I've added a new WebSocket client. This one can be loaded outside of React as well. So this is just a React client you can use to start a communication. We've got the main application, which loads the application, where I initiate the WebSocket client. So it starts a connection to the client. And from there on out, you've got the regular React flow with use effects. So this counter is loaded with the client, which listens on the get counters and the update counters and acts accordingly internally. So this is the front-end stuff. So when I click on the update count, it does a client bump counter. So this client has a function which sends a command to the backend. So the backend is split up into its own package. It's very small, it's just one task. So this task is set up to run as a build task. This build task has the least, this is the only thing that's being registered internally, what kind of message hooks you want. So I will show you later how we can hook your own hooks into it. So it starts as an Opal Swool server, in this case a WebSocket server. So the include here is a, let me see, a Swool WebSocket, this one. You can create your own different kind of servers. You can even just start a PHP server itself. But from here on out, you've got a few things you can use. You can use an on-start event, an on-open event, and an on-message event. So if you look at the terminal, you will see that it has an on-start, it has an on-connection, and it has a, these push messages are triggered on the on-messages. What I've tried to do is that these message hooks are extensible. So I'm reading out from internal message hooks. So I've extended it in my own application. Let me show you. So I'm going to close this one. In the application, I've added the, oh sorry, this is the wrong one. This one. I've added two message hooks. So one message hook is the get counter callback, and one message hook is the bump counter. And I've connected it to a class and a method. So if you have a look at the service class, it's fairly simple. In this case, I've just added a very simple counter in the site config, which gets bumped. So the get function just fetches the config and returns the counter. The bumper just fetches the config, increases the counter, and returns it. So again, from top to bottom, if I click this, it gets sent through the WebSocket connection. This one receives it. Received message, bump counter. Internal magic is done, so this bump counter does its magic, returns a message for every register connection. So every listener is receiving an update counter call. So you can see this one is receiving it, and it's updating everywhere. It's not that difficult. It's not a lot of code, and I find it a shame that no one, not no one, but WebSockets and reactive elements aren't used that much, because I think it's quite an enrichment in the PHP world. So that was it.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. Of course, I already knew what you were going to speak about. Could you do something in the back end as well to initiate these counters, etc.? If people are editing on before write, after write, etc.
Yeah.
And push it. That's the idea, I think.
So the idea is, one of the ideas we both had is previously, so for example, if you have an e-commerce site and you're updating or importing products and the prices get updated, you can have a sort of backend logic that checks every once in a while if there's a new hash containing the summation of the last edited date or something. So if that changes, you can push out a message on the WebSocket backend to update anyone that's on a product page or a listing page or whatever, so that they get the prices updated instantly. That's one of the examples, but using these hooks, this is just a simple example. Using these hooks, you can add whatever event you want to a push event.
Question from Julian.
You've used BuildTask to boot the web server.
Yeah.
Do you have any experiences with like long-running build tasks? Because I think originally BuildTask was not intended to run indefinitely. So I would be interested if this is, in quotes, safe to run as a daemon, for example.
Yeah, so it is just a PHP call. If you run a build task from the front end, you will run it through the web server. For example, Nginx or Apache. You will run it through PHP FPM, for example, which has usually a time cutoff. But if you use it through the CLI, usually the time cutoff is indefinitely. So this build task can run indefinitely, but I would still create a daemon out of it. So then you daemonize the task. But yeah, the build task is one of the easiest way to create a task, which you can just run or rerun from a cron job if it fails. But if you demonize it, you can have a check on if it's alive or if you can restart it. Yeah.
What about resource constraints, like if you open up all those WebSockets to customers on your e-commerce website and so on, like there's no caching or anything or CDN that will be between them and you?
The thing is, you're just running one PHP instance. So the connection count is limited, I think, for the most part, through your web server. So if your Nginx is running smoothly, you can have a lot of connections open.
Do you know what to manage the connections? Is there like does it need to keep a state for every?
Yeah, so what I'm actually this is just a proof of concept, but I'm managing the connections internally. So whenever someone opens it, I add the connection to an internal list. So that's one of the things that OpenSWOOL is limited in. If you compare it to Socket.io, there's a lot of more management for the connections itself. So using this method, you would have to add your own methodology. And one of the things that I wanted to do is add this request to a logged in user, for example. So when someone logs it in, you can add that connection ID to that session. And in that way, you could easily manage actions within the CMS.
Cool, thanks.
Any more questions? No? Oh, yes, maybe.
This is probably a proof of concept, right?
Yeah.
Because it looks like you're building up a lot of connections in the connections array. And I don't know if you're cleaning them up on an exit or something.
So if you have a look at the WebSockets, that's actually part of the.
It's probably also
so
part
we've
of
got
how much resources it's going to take, because that list could become.
No, so there's two methods. We've got a return call in the request stuff. So if you do a reload of the page, this one gets triggered, and you do a client disconnect. It can also be part of the WebSocket client itself, that you have so there's a pinger. If the ping doesn't come in time, you can disconnect from the PHP server side.
Yeah, but if you just close the browser, the connection, there's no way
There's always, this event is always triggered on browser disconnect. So if you close the browser, if you do not kill it with kill -9, if you do a regular kill, the browser always sends I'm leaving event. So you're always doing this disconnect. Even if you refresh it or close it, the event is triggered. But then again, you still have to check it on the PHP side. But if a connection is stale for more than 30 minutes,
you have to have an extra background job to work through all the
idle sessions.
Yeah. That's why I added the pinger. That's kind of a neat trick, but most of this stuff I've created in Node.js using Socket.io. A lot of things come built in, but there's a lot of stuff that you need to rebuild in this open spool. But there are a lot of other packages which might be better. I think the workerman route might be even better because I think you don't need a PHP module for that. That would be better for getting this into a module. You just install it through Composer and you'll be able to use it on the server. It's something I need to check out first.
Yeah, and you're not running the whole SilverStripe in spool, right? It's just this part of
only this part is using
only this
spool.
part of SilverStripe is touching spool because
So
spool does
this
do
is
a
the
lot
only
of
part.
other stuff in.
So this is the only part where the spool server is initiated in the run command. For the rest, so what I did in the counter servers, so the manual hooks, I'm passing on the server here as well. But yeah, they need to know what spool is, but they're not using it. It's just a reference.
Well, thank you very much.